water. I hope you can hear me. And we're going to keep on moving along because we have someone very special on our panel discussion who's going to be the moderator. We got Samuel Maagbe, who is no other than the CEO of TechCon. So what's TechCon? It is actually a platform that he's been working on for 4 years, which is all about aiming to improve the lives of Africans through tech innovation. And I wanted to make sure that when we're introducing all these people that you go and actually have an opportunity to connect with him on LinkedIn, and they are ready to tell you all about this good stuff. I'm going to invite him to the stage. Samuel Maagbe, come on, join me on stage here. Come on in. We're definitely ready to rock and roll, and we have a great session coming up about technology. Technology plays the big foundation of every business today, and you got to be agile. So we want to hear from our speakers what they've been experiencing and how they actually can, add value to what their offering is, so that you guys can get everything you need. Speakers are coming in. We got Samuel's going to be joined by panelists today, and you see we got some top-level great experts in the room. Thank you for joining us. I see Grace is first to connect. Hi, Grace. Looking great. Nice to see you. Where are you located right now?
Nice.
I think you're on mute. Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Great. Where are you right now?
I'm in Lagos, Nigeria.
All right, you're in Lagos. Okay, fantastic. Perfect. It's nice to have you here. Samir is here.
Hello.
Great. Well, and Segun is here. All right, we're just waiting for your moderator to come on into the room. I love we got to chat live, so people are going to reach out. They're going to want to contact you and communicate with you as you're speaking. We'll save all the questions to the end of the panel and get you guys started really soon. So it looks like technology is ruling the world. Hey, Segun, nice to see you. Samir, if you could turn on your camera, we'd love to see your beautiful face.
Great.
Hey,
Grace, how you doing?
Very good. How are you?
Good, Rachel. Pleasure to you.
This is Samir here. Are you able to see me? Because my camera is switched on.
No, I don't see you.
Seems something is blocking your camera.
Do you have a little screen? Maybe he has a security screen. You know the security screens.
Exactly.
So
I was about to say that.
I have one of those. Sometimes you forget they're there.
What, this green screen or something?
Within the camera, if you just find it.
I can see myself, and let me see if I have. Okay, let me switch off the green screen. Is this better? Can you see me?
Nope.
Almost like Grace loading. We've been having technical difficulties all day with this platform. It looks like it's sucking a lot of data. We're talking about data today on our panel. I guess you guys are going to have you been here all morning with us?
Yeah, for most of the events, yes, I have.
Okay. All right, great. I know we're waiting for just your moderator to be here, but I have no problem. I want to introduce each one of you guys and give you an opportunity to just share exactly who you are. Tell me about your business. Tell me why you're here and what you're going to share today. The topic is all about technology and the datafication of that technology to be more efficient, align, and be agile for decision makers in your organization. And Segun, it looks like you got a good connection. Grace is back with us. And Samir, even though your camera's not live, we can hear you. So I'll just call you the black box. We're going to find you on LinkedIn. You guys all have your profiles on LinkedIn?
Yes, absolutely. And the message here says me everyone can see and hear you. So I'm not too sure what's happening.
All right. Well, technology, what can I say? Let's bring it to the table. right? I think something we're faced with every day now. It becomes a norm, right? Of exactly, what we have to deal with. I'd love to go around the room. Grace, your connection looks pretty good. Tell me, please do introduce yourself. I do have a little background. Grace is the head of product in Kyshi. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Amazing. How are you dealing with technology in your business?
Right. So we're using technology to solve a simple problem. So if I paint a scenario of a lot of people have been going in and out of Africa, going to different countries, a lot of, like right now, a lot of people are migrating to the UK and to US and to Canada. Basically, Kishi is solving money problems for Africans across the globe. And so what we're trying to do is to ensure that you can still keep up with home and home can keep up with you in terms of like your financial obligations. And so we're making that easy for Africans everywhere they go, actually. So that's in summary what we're doing.
Fantastic. All right, we're going to get into a whole bunch of fun questions for you guys. And then Samir, you're still in the room, which is great. I know that Segun's probably going to come back, but Samir, let me introduce you. You're the co-founder of Skillcreds, right? Is that said properly?
That's right.
Great. Do tell me, what's Skillcreds?
Okay. So Skillcreds is a immersive learning platform which uses sentiment analysis and neuro-linguistic programming techniques to get learners to assess themselves in real time to real life situations. So imagine you're faced with a situation in front of a client, and a client screams at you, and how are you going to respond to that customer as a sales or as an emerging sales professional is something that you can test yourself for in real time on camera, and the system gives you real-time feedback on how well you responded. So this is essentially using tons and tons of data to essentially capture sentiments as we speak. And so essentially we are a delivery-funded enterprise, which is a deep NLP company, AI-driven, personalized, and adaptive learning company.
Okay, fantastic. It's so great to have you both here. I thank you for coming here. It looks like our moderator is having some technical difficulties, which is we're getting used to, but I'd love you to take an opportunity to share your LinkedIn if you'd like to connect with our community here on the chat on the right side of your screen, and everyone knows how to find you. They could reach out to you directly if you want to share your business profile as well, or at least your business website. Then it's easier to find out how they can engage with your personal brand. But I'd love to take over this panel as to get us engaged and talking about how technology is shaping our world. So what personal experiences have been, really affecting you and this technology on this topical issue? Grace? Oh, someone has a dog.
Yeah.
Is that yours?
You could take that. No, it's not.
Okay.
I think.
So you got any personal experiences, that you could share?
Sure, of course. So a couple of years back when I was doing my master's in the UK, I was a student, and then my parents were back here at home. Of course, they were funding like most of my school fees and then sending a lot of money for me to be able to keep up with my upkeep. And the traditional way of me getting money then was I would take my Nigerian card to any of the ATMs and the banks there in the UK, and I'll be able to withdraw the pound, even though it was being funded with Naira by my parents in Nigeria. And then one thing led to another, and our central bank said that was not going to happen anymore. Of course, in the UK as well, the Naira it's not like a strong currency. And so that stopped working. And all of a sudden, we had to look for a different way for my parents to send money to me. And it was really difficult because I remember one morning, it was really, really freezing in the UK, and I had to walk for a very long time to get to Western Union to get money, because that was the only way my parents could send money to me. And I can remember clearly like thinking there has to be a better way to solve this. And so when my current CEO reached out to me last year saying that he would really like me to head up the product for Kyshi, I remembered quickly, like I actually had this problem. I wish there was someone that could solve it for me. And Kyshi was basically solving that. I'm like, I was super pumped because this is literally, we're automating how that used to happen. So in my case, I would have to wait for someone coming from Nigeria to be able to give them naira because they needed pounds. And so right now, what we're doing is you don't have to cross borders for you to be able to get money, especially if you're trying to send money from UK to Nigeria or Nigeria to UK, for example. The money doesn't necessarily have to cross borders. You can set your rates and actually get the money. So, for example, now I'm in Nigeria and I have a friend studying in the UK. All she needs to do is get on the Kyshi app because probably I need to send money to her. All I need to do is get on the Kyshi app, create an offer that I want to send the equivalent of, for example, £1,000 at a rate that I like. I don't have to wait for the bank to set the rate for me. At a rate that I want, I would create an offer. She would get on the Kyshi app, accept that offer because she's trying to send money to her family in Nigeria. And once she accepts the offer, the naira I'm sending goes to her family, and the pound that I need to send goes to my sister, for example. And so Kyshi has holistically brought like all the parties together in one platform without having to go to a bank or go look for the foreign currency that you need to change or look for the Western Union of those days or even till now. And so for me, that's like a very personal experience as to how we've moved from not just having problems, but seeing that the consistency in the data that we're getting from users is giving us a lot of ways for us to solve the problems that we're facing every day.
Definitely. Awesome. I appreciate that because the next question I'm going to come back to you with is about how these various regions can leverage on these trends, because you talked about cross-border money transferring, which is solving issues for a lot of people. But what do you think some of the various ideas are of these trends and how it's innovating and changing the industry today?
Yeah, that's like fantastically. I think one of the countries that are still like spearheading like the open banking is the UK. And so they have seen the trend. I think one thing that blew my mind when I was schooling in the UK is the fact that the traditional banking had started changing as at how many years ago. And they were using all of the information they're getting from their users to change that. The mobile banking system took like a different form because they realized users don't have like their customers don't have to walk into the bank to get things done. They've seen that we can change the way banking operates just by the way our users are working. So across jurisdictions, I think the US and Canada are still trying to catch up with that pace. But I see a world where in terms of like the fintech space or the finance space, banking will not be traditional anymore, and it's the same for every other industry, not just banking. Now I can speak about finance because that's my industry now, but it would differ across board. It will not be the usual way agriculture will be done in the next 2-3 years. It will not be the usual way people would expect to get food on their table in the next 2 to 3 years. Who would have thought that people can now get food online, like they don't have to cook anymore? They just have to order on an app and it will get delivered to them. Who would have thought that I don't have to get to the hospital to get a diagnosis about how I'm feeling? All I have to do is do a self-test and send the test to a lab, and the results will get back to me via my email. A lot of things are changing, and across board, it's to see are we ready for that change? For like I already said, that the US is trying to catch up in the finance space. It would change some more by the time the US is trying to catch up. And shockingly, in Africa, our finance space is already overtaking them in that light. But it's like, are we ready for that change? And are we positioning ourselves for that change as well?
Definitely. Well, it sounds like you're at the forefront of the financial change. So we'll be hearing from you and seeing what changes are coming next, right? Samir, thank you for coming and joining us. It looks like we're going to have to talk to your black box over there, but I did share your LinkedIn. Oh, I see something moving. So you may be joining us with an image. I did share your LinkedIn on the chat. So anyone that is listening, want to see what Samir looks like, take a look at what he's done, what he's doing. Samir, share with us some of your personal experiences that have led you to where you are on this topic today.
Right. So I'd like to, I consider myself a professional who believes that big data needs to translate into stories, because all of us today, as we move, as our earlier speaker talked about the food industry and how that's building a huge amount of data around the way people consume food. Similarly, our ability to use different apps uh, churns out so much data. And I am part of the education space and the HR space. And I'm grappling with and working closely with industry professionals to find out how employee learning data can be crunched, and how can that data be transformed for social action. How can we track that data real time? How can you do predictive analysis on this data? How could you monitor, track, and analyze that data and optimize that data? And more importantly, how could you uh, find out and pick up or capture disruptive possibilities from this data? So essentially, we're living in an extremely disruptive environment with huge amounts of data. And while big data is important, datafication is extremely important. We have huge amounts of data which is almost invisible. However, for that data to be converted into value, we need to be able to convert big data into tiny data, and then be able to use insights to capture possibilities for disruption. And today, every organization is scared of the transformation needs that they need to embark on. Businesses can be wiped off in a matter of years. So, therefore, my work is in the space of HR, where uh, the way employees learn on online platforms, the way employees play games, or the way they respond to role plays or simulations, is formed as a way to find out how could learning be further built into micro learning and nano learning to capture that increased lowered span of attention. So that's the space I am in. We are talking about real-time neuro-linguistic outcomes to our simulations. We are doing work on how employees can be given real-time information on how they performed in a real-life situation at the workplace. How could managers tutor or mentor their teams based on their real-time performance? And how could AI how could learning mentors be created uh, through an organization's work? And lastly, and the most exciting, is how can every learner create a digital avatar of himself or herself and let loose his or her profile in the metaverse, and for that profile to learn on my behalf. So imagine if I can create a avatar of myself and let himself loose into the metaverse to learn on my behalf, and then I capture on demand that learning uh, whenever I need it. So that's the kind of work we are doing, which has to crunch tons and tons of data. But like I said, big data is big data uh, without any meaning unless you are able to create the right story out of that big data.
Wow. Talk about big data. There's a big topic, right? Because it's never ending. I mean, I'm sure many of us are sitting there going, I got to delete all the pictures on my phone or delete all the videos that I have recorded because the data, I got to keep on increasing that Google Drive. It's just every
True.
single day, and you're seeing it in every
True.
part of your lifestyle, from your work to your professional and to your private space. And I'm so happy, Segun, you're back with us. Welcome back to the room. We've been hearing from Grace. We've been hearing from Samir. I want to get a little idea from you. Tell me about CAPSA. You're the Chief Commercial Officer over there. Tell me how your business has been impacted by, this data transition, this technology component, and the topical issue that we're discussing today, which is all about agility in technology within organizations. How can decision makers like yourself be aligned to work more efficiently? And he's gone. So I'm going to ask Grace, we're going to move when he comes back. We'll move that a little bit over, but I got a question. Do you think that institutions or the government should manage this? And how can they actually manage this effectively within an organization kind of environment?
That's a very interesting question because I think we have very good example. Okay. We have a very good example of a government managing the data, and I think we're not really all aligned with that. But I think there are limits, and so in Africa, I think one of the issues that we have is that we don't have a lot of, like, our government is supposed to be responsible for some key kind of data. They don't have it, but there are other countries that have all of these things, but probably using them the wrong way. And so I think for governments, what I can advise is let's have the basics. So can we come to you and ask you how many youths there are in the country, because we're trying to have a new initiative that would help all the youths probably get better education or get better healthcare. I don't think a lot of countries can answer that question. We don't have that data. However, there are countries that have that data, however, but they're using it in another light to, like, they're infringing a lot of privacy laws. They're stopping you from accessing certain information or certain websites or certain services. There should be a balance. So right now, what my advice would be for governments, let's have the basic information. Can we get data from you to say, like, this is the number of people in the country that need access to this healthcare? This is the number of people that need jobs. We need to hire a certain number of people for a new company that's coming into the country. Can you give us data to say this is where you should target, or this is where we believe you should start this business, because a lot of youths in this space that would benefit from your service or benefit from being part of this organization? Can we say we're coming to you to get data because, for example, Tongston is going to be allowing at least, maybe say they're going to be hiring at least 50 youths from each state to train on an entrepreneurial course, and then empower them for their next businesses. We don't have that kind of data in Nigeria, for example. And it would be great to see governments taking that initiative. For institutions, it would be, what kind of data are you collecting? And are you using the data just for support, or you're using it to see into the future? So there's a very good quote that I like about data is like, a lot of companies see themselves using data as a lamppost. A lamppost is supposed to give you light, they turn it into support, just to support what they're doing at in the present time, instead of seeing how it can evolve into the future. So for example, Uber probably noticed that in Nigeria, we started using Uber rides to transport things from one place to the other, not just people. And so they evolved into providing Uber for logistics, just for you to move things from place to place. That is a very good way of companies thinking ahead as to the data that they're collecting. I see that if we all in our organization can take data from what we are using it for the now into thinking to the future, those are the innovators. Those are people that will break the system in terms of the services that they're providing, or become the next Forbes 20, for example.
Great. All right. Wow. There's a lot of parts. And Segun is back. Segun, how's your mute? Can you unmute so we can have a conversation? Oh, there you are. Good. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for joining.
Can you hear me? Good. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Great.
Awesome. Finally.
He's back. Segun's back to join the conversation. Segun, we're talking about personal issues. We're talking about regional restrictions. We're talking about company trends and innovation when it comes to technology. And I want you to, since you are here, I want to give you an opportunity about any changing initiatives happening at CAPSA. Tell everybody, our audience, what CAPSA is and what you're doing over there.
Okay, good. So CAPSA is essentially Africa's premier digital invoice factoring platform. We like to call ourselves the Amazon for invoices. Essentially, we've created a platform where persons can upload validated invoices and trade them for cash. So instead of the typical situation where you're waiting 30, 45, 60 days to get paid, if you have a valid invoice, you can actually upload it on our platform and get cash in 48 hours. Right. And we've also been able to connect. And the beauty of our platform is we're able to connect financiers with vendors, persons that are doing work for credible organizations, with persons that have financing, with financial institutions that are looking for how to deploy their capital. So if you have validated invoices and you have valid verifiable capital, bringing them together essentially brings a lot of relief to business owners and also financiers. So that's essentially what we're making happen in on the continent. Yeah.
Great. So you must have some personal experience. You miss Grace telling her personal experience about being in the cold. And now I'd love to hear from you. What personal experience have you been that have affected you on this issue around what you're actually working on, invoicing? You got anything to share?
Yes, I mean, like essentially before we started this, right, there was a couple of friends that came together, put money together, and financed small businesses, right? But what we soon found out was that there's little to no data on these persons. There's little to no way you can actually get your money back, because they promise heaven and earth when about to access the financing, and after they get the financing, they are off, right? And you're not able to get your funds back. And we saw a situation whereby all of our capital that we deployed essentially diminished, and then we had to now rethink our model, and then that was what birthed CAPSA. And now we deal with invoices of verifiable organizations. These are companies that are listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. They are companies that are listed on credible stock exchanges. There are companies that do anywhere between 60 to 100 billion in revenues, and a couple of that. So what we've been able to do, that experience still um, it didn't stop us from supporting small businesses, but it changed the approach by which we now support them. So now they have some form of guarantee from the companies they work for, even if we can't give them those guarantees individually as small businesses. So essentially, that's probably a personal experience that I probably would happily share. Yeah.
Great. And I got a question from Addy on the comments. He's saying, what impact has data had on invoicing?
Oh, so I'll look at it in two angles: what impact, and what impact has it had, and what impact it can have, right? So essentially, the impact that we've currently have hasn't been the rosiest of impacts, because we struggle to get verifiable invoices. There's no database for invoices, no central repository for invoices for credible organizations, and many organizations are comfortable with that because they find it a means by which they might not be able to pay their invoices on the due dates, right? But what data can do for us, and also regulation, is that one in a couple of other climes, right? You can access all invoices and persons and the dates that they are due for payment, and companies that renege on paying those invoices as good as flagged as companies that have credit can be reported to the credit bureaus as to be owing businesses for services that they've already enjoyed months and days earlier. So yes.
All right. Thank you for that. Thanks for that question in the chat. If you got any other questions for our panelists, I invite you to please share. We'd love to bring you into the conversation. Samir, people are saying we'd love to see your face, but I would like to ask you a question about where the pivots and potential challenges are with what we're talking about. I know you talked about big data, you talked about a number of different things, but what's happening? How are people pivoting in your business, and what challenges are you facing? All right, I'm gonna give Samir a moment to come back, and I'm gonna actually pass that one to Grace. How about that, Grace? You pick that one up. We're looking for pivots in your industry and potential challenges that you're facing. How
Sorry,
you're
I was
overcoming
on
them.
mute. Can you hear me now?
Oh, you are on mute. Okay, good. Now I can hear you.
Sorry, I'm
Please
sorry
do.
about that. So I had
That's
started
okay.
talking. Apology. Yeah, so I'd like to talk about two examples. One is the metaverse, and the second is smart cities. As we all know, the metaverse is a data-driven smart city where the balance or the you are essentially part of the actual real world and the virtual world. And there's a lot of overlap between datafication, algorithmization, and platformization. So urban societies come together in the virtual world or the real world. So there's a lot of uh, each interaction is a data point. Each conversation is a data point. Each question is a data point, and each complaint is a data point. And each of these opens up enormous possibilities for businesses to create disruption. And essentially, what we are trying to do in our world is to look at the education and the learning component of metaverse. How do new millennials and Gen Zers learn? We all know the attention deficit. New millennial who was born with a mouse in their hands and who trust the digital world much more than probably the physical world. And how are they going to learn? How are they going to play, interact with the metaverse, interact with the virtual entities around them, and use that to learn? And since we know that they are short for attention, since we know that they are multitaskers, which is why we're trying to create bots or digital avatars so that they can be let loose and learn on behalf of the learner. Now, the issues that come up are essentially about ethical issues. What if my avatar does something that I did not want to do? What if uh, what if somebody does something to my avatar which is not ethical? Uh, how and when I do something in real time in an immersive environment that may not be really me, or how could somebody have hacked into my profile and done something on my behalf? So these are ethical challenges, technology challenges. There are also biases. I might get biased by something which may not be true. I might make early hypotheses from something from a trend which may not last. So these are issues and challenges that we have to manage in our world. So organizations today are extremely gung ho about how datafication of their learning trajectories can be used to cut down costs and create more effective learning. What we have to battle with is essentially the challenge of early hypotheses trying to create wrong outcomes. How the need for quick results can change or subvert the entire process. So these are the challenges we are grappling with.
Wow. You have a lot of stuff going on. We're talking about metaverse on down. Are you guys dealing with metaverse in any of your businesses? Grace, Segun?
Not yet. Not yet.
Is that the future? Where do you
Yeah,
see the
but
future? Are you guys
definitely.
going there?
Everyone has to be there, right? Everyone has to be there, and that's the beauty of the future. It's just that, I mean, people take cautiously optimistic steps towards the future, knowing that once you're there, you can't come back. So, so essentially, it's important one is prepared for the future.
And what other opportunities do you see in your industry in the future? You have someone in our comment area, Adi, that's really appreciating your feedback about your business and interested to understand how you're dealing with data collection and storage within your industry.
Great, and that's a very good question, right? So for us, where we are headed is to have like a marketplace for invoices, and such that the average person can come onto our platform and essentially be able to invest in invoices. So we are making invoice an asset class, right? And the beauty of this is when we have a number of invoices and a number of persons that can actually trade in these invoices on our platform, right? And again, the benefit of that is we can now have peer-to-peer reviews on credibility of invoices, of financiers, of vendors, of small businesses and large businesses alike, such that people can rate on the go how credible this person is, how credible this invoice is, and people can also earn on the go, and people can also get the much needed liquidity for their business operations on the go. So the beauty of this is we are just able to do things that seemed quite difficult prior to now or prior to then in such a very seamless and easy manner, and it's win-win for everyone that's taking a part in it.
Great. Well, I had a great question from Halima here, and I don't know, Samir, you still here? It's hard to tell if you're in the room or not. Oh, you're still here. Great. Okay. So where do you see the future in your industry? I mean, you sound like you are leading this future path.
I'm not sure about that, about leading the future. I think we're all trying to capture trends, and we are all trying to make sure that as we grapple with today, we are able to measure and adequately forecast the future. I mean, no one can ever do that, but you make an effort at that, and essentially we're trying to make sure. Look, we all know that we are increasingly becoming a lonely society. We are interacting with each other, however we are interacting on the mobile phone, on such chats. Our physical interactions are getting more and more limited. And I'm not sure, and the jury is out there in terms of whether that's helping us to build our interpersonal skills, our ability to manage conflicts, our ability to negotiate better, some of those life skills that we learned on the job, meeting people, and having those tough situations put in front of us. Well, that's the opportunity that we are trying to, sort of, if you can beat it, you have to join it. So why can't we need to create situations and simulations of such situations that people will face in as they grow in their professional world? We're trying to capture such situations and put them in front of learners and get them to respond to those situations, maybe in immersive augmented reality situations where when I wear a headset, I almost imagine myself giving feedback to a junior or to maybe negotiate with a customer. And what I say during that time is captured. Each word I speak is captured, and the sentiment expressed in those words are captured in real time. So this is high-tech sentiment analysis, which then gives someone an immediate real-time report on how they performed in that situation. For example, unlike the other participants, my image is not visible to you. So you all form an impression about me, and all the listeners on this panel form an impression about me based on only on the words I speak right now, right? And my ability to form an impression, yes, my ability to form an impression and to create a professional impact through this episode solely depends on the words I speak, right? And in many situations, this can make or break my professional journey. So therefore, what we're trying to help people in corporates as well as down the line in universities to be able to express themselves and find out how well they express themselves in real life, in real time, and be able to use that feedback as a basis to grow on those interactions. Because lastly, we are increasingly living in a lonely world, cocooned amongst ourselves and our computer and our cell phone, and our ability to really test ourselves in real life is getting more and more limited, and therefore data plays a very big role in helping me understand how I should grow professionally.
Well, good thing you got Tongston University right here being able to provide their services so that they can able you to actually engage and not be stuck behind your phone, so that you can actually find the value that you can bring to the table for any organization, right? So we're proud to be here and have them guiding us and inviting us to this panel to share our expertise. Do you think that policymakers play a role in actually driving this conversation and shaping this industry? What do you think? I see Grace saying yes. What do you say, Grace? It's their responsibility. They got to do something about it before we all turn into hermits, or what?
I think so. I really do think so. There's for example, I can use the Nigeria space because there are a lot of policies that come up differently, and it changes everything. So, for example, recently they put a cap to the dollars that you can spend online, and so that changes a lot of things for everybody in the fintech space. Like if that was your line of business, you just put a ceiling to what organizations can do. You've put a ceiling to what the banking industry can do, and that limits a lot of transactions. And so policies do play a role in everything, in every sphere, in every industry. There are some industries that are not yet regulated because of like maybe the policies, like policymakers have not turned in that direction. And so you can still see some organizations being able to do certain things without that guide of what is required. But then that leaves a lot of loopholes for other people to take advantage of the system. But if we have policymakers in these kind of conversations, they know they have a role to play in how organizations should function. And so they would help eventually in ensuring that the policies that they make actually support the organizations that they want to exist in their country. For example, it would be an issue if, for example, the government goes ahead to say, oh, from today we're not having any more universities in Nigeria. That changes the system for a lot of people, where that means a lot of the students, when they get to that point, would have to leave the country. You're leaving the country, and then you're taking your most valuable workforce out of the country, and that causes a lot of things to change within the country. So a lot of policies drive organizations, whether we like it or not. We find ourselves in organizations that if you're in the fintech space, a lot of things that you do must be guided by the CBN in Nigeria or the central bank of whatever country you're working in. But if you think about the fact that in agriculture, we probably don't have those policies, we still have some loopholes, and people are taking advantage of the system. They don't know what to do. There's no guiding light. Neither is there a sense of direction. Some organizations are using that to form policies that now drive the rest of that drives other organizations that come after them. So yes, I believe policymakers have a lot to play, and I really do hope that they are part of this kind of conversations that we're having.
I like it. Hashtag TESS 2022, because we're talking about technology and how it's really changing every one of our industries. We don't know what the future brings, where it's going, but we do know where we are today, and maybe getting the insight from these professionals are going to help guide us to where we problem solve the next challenges for the future. Now, I know there's a number of comments going on in the chat, so I don't know if you got a chance to watch what's happening, what people are saying in the chat about this panel discussion. It looks like we got a lot of conversation going on. I want to bring it to the table and just invite you, Segun, please do share your LinkedIn page on the chat so that people can connect with you. I know people have connected with Grace already. Samir, you should be getting some connections as well, because your expertise should be shared, and now's the time to connect with everybody you can to spread the word of what your value is to this world. So Halima says she has a question in mind, is how to capture data is easy and efficiently in a manner that's easy to analyze and leverage it, right? One of the hardest things is simply getting the data. She agrees with you, Grace. It's often expensive and complex, and then more so, the data may not be meaningful or reliable. Remember how much garbage data is out there. How do you surpass that challenge and collecting data in the first place? You got any ideas?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, because like I try to remind people, is that what question are you asking? If you have the wrong questions, you'll be collecting the wrong data. There's no two way about it. So the first thing is ask yourself the right question. What are you trying to achieve? So if I'm saying I need to know how many youths there are in Nigeria, that guides the way the data is going to be collected, because you would then know that there are 36 states in Nigeria. Then you would be able to distribute your workforce or the resources you have to 36 states in Nigeria. However, some people would say that it's limiting because we don't know how big the states in Nigeria are. We have geographic information, but we might not have in terms of population. So then you are positioning yourself to find out, do we need to know the population first before we know the number of youths there are in Nigeria? So first of all, it's like you need to ask yourself the right question. That question will guide the data collection tool. It would guide the data collection method. It would then even guide the data collection resources you need to say, okay, do we need to train the people that are required to get this data? If yes, are they ready? And what do we need to train them? And then how adequately are we going to collect this data? Are we using a form? Are we using paper? Is paper sustainable? Are we doing this electronically? And how are we going to harness all of the information together when it's being collected? If we're doing it electronically, is it going to one source, or do we have to put them in different sources first and then bringing them together? So it's a lot of process to get in the right data, but the first thing is ask yourself the right question first, and then everything else would flow.
Great. Thank you, Grace. Addy says he doesn't think the metaverse is the top of the line for technology. Ooh, we got a debate going on. So in terms of technology firms in this part of the world, there's a lot of limiting factors. What do you think? Samir?
Could you repeat your question once again?
Sure. I got someone Addy from the comments is saying that he does not think the metaverse is top of the line for technology firms in this part of the world. He thinks that there's still a limit. There's a lot of limiting factors around this technology. What do you think?
I agree and disagree. Look, ultimately, the metaverse is a phenomenal development that is going to engulf us in the times to come. How well or how deeply it gets entrenched in the business world, we do not know. The gut feeling of many is that it's a $1 trillion economy, which will walk side by side with the real world. So it's a debate. We can debate it till the cows come home, the dogs come home. However, what I would like to really talk about is that data ultimately, since this topic is about datafication, data is as corruptible or intelligent as the entity or the machine learning or the process that's handling the data. So, however, data, as we all know, that data can be made to prove anything. So the idea is to ensure that the huge amounts of data that we are able to capture and store we need to really find out what problems we want to address through this data. Many times we are trying to solve problems that don't exist. So the idea essentially is to ensure, I'm sorry, that the right hypotheses are put to the data. Machine learning algorithms are created to validate this data. Once you have enough statistically valid outcomes that this particular hypothesis could be proved correct, then you put all your energies into trying to validate it further. So this is a very huge, sometimes it can take years. And we live in times where everyone wants everything very quickly. So that is where I think the problem lies. You're conducting surgeries today with AI. You're finding out whether smart cities, how well can they be run better. So we're trying to task data with too many things, with results that may not necessarily be valid today. But maybe in the next decade, we will have much better the results than we have today, because processing powers will continue to increase. We will store more and more data on a microchip than we are doing today. So I think it's an evolving world. it's an evolutionary, we live in evolutionary times. Each 5 years is going to be very disruptive from the past, the earlier 5 years.
Absolutely. It's moving fast. And I want to thank you all. Let's thank our panelists. Thanks for the comments. Segun, Grace, Samir, you guys have been fantastic. Really appreciate you enjoying and engaging with us on the technology topic here at Tongston Entrepreneurial event. Make sure that you're hashtagging too, ladies and gentlemen, hashtag TEES 2022, and let people know that you got up here and you shared your expertise with us, because you never know who else will reach out and say, hey, I want to hear what you have to say at my next event. So really important. Love it. Really love the engagement. And I want to thank you guys again. Now's the time to network with everybody at our event and be able to talk to our sponsors. We're going to come back soon with a lot of startup pitches happening very, very, very soon. So we're going to take a little 30-minute break. We'll put 30 minutes on the clock, it looks like. And we are going to talk at this 30-minute break. You're going to have the opportunity to play the challenge game. So we want to make sure you're working on a challenge experience. Make sure that you're working on the scavenger hunt, right? We are having, obviously 50 minutes is not enough when we have such great panelists. We need to keep going, and there is some great, great, great engagement. So thank you guys. Keep your comments coming. Keep your questions coming. That's how we get everything we need out of this event and really make the best of this learning connection opportunity. So we had a number of different links here on the comments. Make sure to link and connect with all these people professionally. Tell me what you like the best. Do you like the connections? Do you like the learning? Do you like the topics? We got a lot of information. And when it comes to education, there's no one better than Tongston giving you exactly what you need to build your career for all different individuals across technical and on down. So we have the education course, we have the entrepreneur course, we have career